Tonight's topic: what to do if you dislike your spouse.
Mm.
Wow.
Yes, that the reality is there may be times in your relationship when you and your spouse are not getting along. That happens, that is very common, and arguments and conflict are situations that are happening in everyday life. It's not necessarily your spouse per se, but on a job, co-workers, family members, your children. You know, conflict is a healthy part of life, believe it or not. And the thing is that we want to focus on is that in marriages and divorce, we had named the statistics on reasons. Well, not necessarily statistics, but we had in our first video labeled out reasons why people get divorced. And the number one reason why people divorce is because not because of infidelity, cheating, not because of financial issues, but because of irreconcilable differences was number one. And I stated last night that could be a multitude of reasons why people are getting divorced. And unfortunately, I like to throw this statistic in there: 80% of divorces are initiated by women.
Mm-hmm.
So we just wanted to talk about the discussion of what happens if you get into a conflict with your spouse. It is not an end all situation. These things can be rectified and reconciled and resolved. And we're going to walk you through um, things that you can do in your relationship if you and your spouse are not getting along.
Yeah, and if you dislike each other, mainly in particular, it's normal, like my husband was saying, it's normal to have feelings of strong dislike for your spouse if y'all are in an argument and they have done something to you that you didn't like, or you felt like they weren't doing something they were supposed to do, whatever the cause of the dislike. It's really important to decide. I guess it depends also on the relationship that you're in. If this is just a simple boyfriend and girlfriend relationship, you have to decide, is this worth your time anymore? You have a lot more options if you're not married to this person. So, coming into a situation of whether or not I like my spouse, this person that I've chosen to court, can really make or break the relationship. But at the same time, it's very important for single people to realize that there will be times where you just won't like your spouse, but that, like my husband was saying, is not a reason to just up and jump ship. And in fact, if you continually just always go from relationship to relationship to relationship because you dislike certain qualities of a person, you might want to really sit back and consider your maybe fear of commitment, maybe whether you're ready for what it takes to have a long-term relationship, and what you could do to help yourself be better prepared for what may come with any relationship that you get in.
Right.
Yeah. And I will say though, if you're married and you dislike your spouse, it's definitely more of you having to work on getting back onto the side of liking your spouse, and less of an option of just hopping and jump ship, and hopping and jump ship like if you were just in a regular relationship, because you have made vows, you have committed to this person. So sickness or health, whether I like you or not.
Right. Until death do you part,
Yeah.
because, in traditional vows, it says nothing about happiness. That's
Hmm.
just to be honest with you. But, oh yeah, I forgot to say, what's up, Blueprint family? Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like my wife said, you got to recognize also, we talked about patterns. Recognize patterns too, as well. And make mental notes of those things as well. We talked about hormones, hormonal situations. Women are hormonal creatures. That's the bottom line of it. Men, you all who've dated multiple women, and you've probably argued with all of them. And one thing you may recognize was a cyclical pattern dealing with, like, if you haven't, pay attention to moon cycles. I said it last night. A lot of conflict happens or situations, a lot of crime happen on full moons. Also, women with their hormones, a lot of times they menstruate around the full moon or new moon cycles. So those are things that you just be aware of and be conscious and be empathetic to those situations. It's not something that you can just dismiss. You can't. So you just need to be empathetic and understanding of your wife, and um, and learn how to resolve conflict and just move forward. So
Mm-hmm. Yep.
with that being said, um, we're going to dive right in.
Yeah. If you have a big feeling of dislike that comes from maybe a argument or a small disagreement, but you're able to move forward, is great. But if you're holding on to these negative feelings of dislike, then you are probably going to come across into this being a bigger problem, especially if you're holding and harboring those feelings for long periods of time. If that is the case, it's really important to reassess your relationship. And this is how you do that. So, first, you have to decide whether the relationship is worth it. Is this worth it? That goes right back to what I was saying earlier about if you're married or if you're single. Married people, you have it. Yeah, most of the time the answer is yeah, it's worth it because you married this person. If this is somebody that you're just dating, then maybe not. I mean, it's really up to whether or not this is somebody that you're seriously courting, if they're showing you a lot of the green flags that we have talked about last night, or if they're showing you a lot of the red flags that are actually warning you and telling you to get out. So it's really just the first step is just to really assess whether or not this relationship is worth savaging. And then once you have decided that, yeah, you can move forward with other methods that we're going to talk about, because mainly the methods that we're going to introduce today or tonight are going to be about ways that you can help better change the relationship and that the dynamic that's going on. So this information is key if you want to salvage your relationship, whether you're just dating or marriage, and if you want to keep going and move forward and move past the feelings of dislike that you probably will have sometimes. So yeah.
Yep. Um, where we're at next.
Gain awareness. Yeah.
All right. Next, you must gain awareness of a few very important things. Number one, try to put into words what you dislike about them.
Mm-hmm.
Taking the time to help yourself identify what you don't like will also help you to better articulate what you do like.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's communication. This you need to communicate to your spouse.
Well, to yourself
I mean,
first.
well, yeah, to yourself first,
Mm-hmm.
and put it into a dialogue. Um,
An honest dialogue,
right,
because that's healthy. That's what you need with
right,
yourself. Yeah.
right. Most definitely, and and then also just think about what I learned that in a management course is to first have that conversation with yourself, and then think about what you're going to say in a professional way. So even though we all are in relationships, there is no reason to degrade somebody, name call, or belittle people as far as communication goes. Even if you dislike them, you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to start. What you're trying to do is prevent an argument. You're trying to start a conversation, create a dialogue in which both people have say in the relationship, and you want to negotiate to reach a compromise. That is the reason why you're in a relationship, is to compromise, meet down the middle, and try to find things that you all can work on, especially if it's dealing with someone's dislikes in the relationship.
Yeah.
And
If I may,
go ahead.
most in particular, it's really important to have this honest conversation with yourself so that you can better articulate what it is you don't like about the person or your spouse in particular. So if you're finding that my spouse is doing certain things and I can't quite pinpoint it, maybe it's little things like how they wake up in the morning and make a whole lot of noise that keeps you up, something small like that, or maybe something big, like maybe you're suspecting infidelity.
Fidelity.
Anything around that, you really have to first be honest with yourself about what's going on, and then try to pinpoint maybe the moment where your dislike started to kick in. Like, what were the key defining moments within the relationship that started to trigger this feeling? Because it's always going to be those key moments that will trigger you to not like somebody, especially when it comes to your partner or your spouse. So really taking the time to stop and identifying what are those key moments will really help you to then articulate that to your spouse. So then, like my husband says, you can further move forward to having that conversation in a healthy way.
Right. And then
Yeah.
thank you all for viewing as well. We see we have some more viewers that's coming in, and today's topic is what to do if you dislike your spouse.
Yeah.
So we've already dived in, and the one thing we just got off the topic of was this having that conversation, honest conversation with yourself, and putting into words what you dislike and how you want to bring that conversation up with your partner. So
Mhm.
make sure you have that conversation with yourself first. And I said, keep it professional as well. So no name calling. Don't try to belittle your partner, and think about exactly what you want to say to them in regards to what you're going through. Like my wife said, infidelities, can be something small like not picking up your clothes on the floor, not helping out with the kids,
Mhm.
you know, um, real life relationship situations, or um,
Or even dating
dating
situations. Yeah,
situations like
things you don't like.
transparency, not picking up the phone or answering my text messages and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Those are just real communication issues and relationships. And the key thing here is that what we've mentioned before was that number one reason why people divorce is because they're irreconcilable differences. So what we recognized was that there's a communication error in relationships, and people do not know how to communicate properly. So by far, if you can have that communication with yourself and articulate what you want to say exactly, then you will have a successful chance at trying to resolve the issue. Because what you do not want to do is just get hot headed and then start yelling at your spouse for something that you dislike about them.
Mm-hmm.
And like my wife had said, don't harbor those emotions or those feelings or the issue, or don't try to delay the problem. Try to rectify the issue as soon as you can, not
Yeah.
immediately. Like we saying, take the time out to actually put your feelings into words and then speak on it in a
Mm-hmm.
professional manner with your spouse
Yeah, choosing your words carefully. And
carefully.
not only, yeah, professional is definitely a great way to go about it, because then you wouldn't talk to your boss in a certain way.
Right.
But
Yeah,
then
most
also too,
definitely.
out of respect and love for your person, choosing your words carefully will help you to then get your partner to understand, hey, this is where I'm coming from, and I would like you to understand because I would like to move forward. I
Right.
don't like these feelings that I am having. If you come into it on a negative tone, then the person isn't going to receive it well, and it can actually turn into that person doing even more things that you dislike, and then just really starting a bigger rift in the relationship. So yeah, definitely making sure to take the time to figure out the right thing to say, the
Right.
right words. How can I say this nicely, not being
Right.
rude
Because you
or
want to
mean?
avoid violence by all
Mm-hmm.
means. You don't want to erupt and then make the situation blow up into where people are, are becoming violent in your
Mm-hmm.
relationship. That's by far that's a red flag,
Mm-hmm.
if anything.
Yeah.
So let's move on.
Yep.
Um,
Oh,
what's
well,
next?
some key points down here that I wrote about a healthy way to go about the conversation with your spouse if it's some things that you dislike. And along with choosing your words carefully is to lead the conversation by telling them the exact things that you have identified as being the things that you dislike and why. Kind of avoid going all around town on telling them what's wrong, but just be very specific in those. It's important too, if you could write that down when you're having that honest conversation with yourself, it will kind of help you to keep track of the thoughts you're having, so that then you can really tell them, okay, this is the issue, this is what I don't like. And then you can end the conversation by saying, this is the things that I think will help fix things, or how can we come together to fix things.
Right, make things better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and one thing that people do in arguments, they try to throw everything into the argument. And oh, by the way, you didn't take the trash out last week, and that really pissed me off. Like, no, just stick on the topic at hand, that one issue. And remember not to generalize, don't make assumptions. And you, yes, by all means, don't say you always, you never take the trash out, I'm always doing it. And in the back of your mind, that's not true. So that's the reason why, having that conversation with yourself first and choosing your words wisely is very important, instead of blowing up on your loved one. You want to make sure that you speak accurately about what's going on.
Yeah.
I know these things may be easier said than done. So, before you even, blow up or start this process of self-reflecting and thinking about what you say, just breathe, take some time out and breathe.
Yeah, I call that centering yourself. In my Wife Economics course, we focus on especially when you're kind of going through a rough patch and you're really trying to work towards solution, is to not go into it when you're all frazzled and in a hot place and you can't think, because that just really clouds your judgment. But if you can take a moment to be centered and get yourself back to a place of peace where you feel like, okay, I can talk about this without flipping out, then you know that you're ready to have the conversation.
Right.
But if you see your spouse and you just looking at them like, dang, I can't think, like that is not the time to go try to have that conversation.
Right. By all means, you want to have the conversation when you both are level headed. Take and that's one of my issues too. I like to go ahead and let's hurry up and resolve this. You have to take the time out when both people are cool and calm, So give each other that space, give each other that time to cool down first, and then talk about what is on your mind in an accurate way, and without with all respect. So show signs of respect as well. All right.
Yep, definitely. Next up is to focus on rekindling the relationship. So right after the last part, how we were saying, once you have figured out with your partner the issues, you have addressed these issues, then you say, okay, we're going to fix this. How are we going to do this? Focus on rekindling the relationship and getting rid of any feelings of resentment or hurt or anger that you hold by doing the things that you enjoy with your partner, the things that spouse, the things that you sparked the whole relationship up from the beginning, the things you love to do that made you feel all those lovey-dovey feelings towards each other, all those things that you just really enjoy doing. Do those, because that will really help you to release any feelings that any negative feelings that you may harbor.
Right. Yeah, most definitely. And remember to what I wanted to say. Remember to remember that you all, especially if you're married, you all live together. So you want to make sure that give yourself time to what I wanted to say. Give yourself time to think about ways that you can make each other feel good. And just remember your favorite, you like your wife's favorite snack. Surprise them with that. And then, talk about, like my wife said, talk about those times when like first dates or things like that, to help rekindle and get back on focus of being together back into the relationship. Those things actually do help, and after, a lot of times it's hard for people to get back and rekindle in the relationship. All of that does take time. So usually after you've resolved the relationship, there's still some hard feelings there. So don't be surprised about that. So still, you may need after you've resolved, there's still going to be another cool down. So another round of cooling down to maintain level heads, and then then go into an activity that you all enjoy doing. A lot of people have makeup sex, right? So that is a good way to also release steam, release stress, and then have a good round of makeup sex, and then that will get you back on the level of love, loving your spouse. You should never ever say that you hate your spouse or hate who you're with. If you ever get to that level where you're hating the person that you're with, you need to really seriously think about like that number one thing of, is this all worth it?
Mhm.
you know. Um, you really do.
Yeah.
Because you shouldn't have to wake up every morning with somebody that you hate.
Mhm.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
Make
and
it makes no sense at all.
yeah, and really reevaluate how you got there. If it's hard for you to rekindle the relationship, I think that will really be a breaking point, because if you can't get that back going, if you can't pick it back up, then it really isn't much of a point. A lot of this, like my husband says, is solutions to work towards being in a relationship with each other. So if you're dating and you just can't seem to get back on one accord with this person, you really have to consider, is this worth it anymore? Is my well-being, mental health wise, worth it anymore?
Right.
Sometimes it might not be.
Right. And you see, dating is harder because, like my
Hmm.
wife had mentioned in the beginning, sometimes the person you're dating may have multiple options.
Hmm.
That's just the reality of the situation. There is no hard commitment there. You all are just dating. So
Yeah.
you're more so like you're so more inclined to just, jump ship.
Yeah.
Dating is a situation to where you may call somebody else up if you're having an argument with that one person. That's
Yeah.
just the reality of the situation. Dating, there's a lot of competition in that dating realm today. So it's different. Like we had laid out, the rules are different for marriage couples.
Hmm.
So it's not like you can just not show up at home, you
Yeah.
know.
Right.
You are a team. So you have to build back that team, that build that team back up and rekindling your relationship. Remember the important things that matter to you when you rekindle that relationship. If you all have children, you know, remember that, oh, we've built all of this up together. Remember,
Hmm.
review, reflect on all the things that got you to this point today in this life.
Yeah.
Remember where you were before you was with your spouse, and then look at where you are today, as far as finances with your home, your family, all the wonderful things that you all
Hmm.
have built together.
Hmm.
Because in a relationship, in a marriage, it takes two people to build that relationship together, and it's a support system that you have. My wife is my support system. She's my helpmate. She helped me to get to where I am in my career. That's just an example. Like I could not have done this without her. And then another thing too, in relationships and in marriage, think about your children. You want to keep your family together. I'm not saying that you just need to stay in a marriage because of your children,
Hmm.
but there were happy times and things that worked out to develop the relationship to the point
Hmm.
of you all having children. So if
Hmm.
it really was that bad, then you all should not have gotten to the point of actually having children
Or being
or
married,
being married in
certainly.
the
Yeah.
first place.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
it can happen, it can work. You just have to be committed on rekindling that relationship back
Hmm.
into full force and
Yeah.
full swing. It can be done.
Yeah, and the time it takes though will really depend on the situation. Like, what are you trying to get over with your spouse? So, say if it's infidelity or something, again, that's a
Right.
big one. It's
That's a
going to
trust
take time.
issues.
It's going to take a lot more work of maybe doing things that you probably not have usually done, just so that you can warm your spouse up and open them up more to the aspect of the relationship again. A lot, especially coming a bounce back from infidelity. It really does seem like you, I guess, would need a some type of tinkering to help the person really feel like, oh, things won't happen the same way. Because if things still remain the same and everybody's doing the same things, then you very well would be fearful of it happening again. But if you can then do things instead that will help ease those fears, rekindle that love, show that spark, show that connection, show the reason why you're still doing this, all of that will really help things further along. Next is to show appreciation and gratitude for the progress that you've seen. So, if you've started seeing some things, if your spouse is starting to do things a little different because they've taken your advice and they understand where you're coming from and what you need to feel more loved and supported, or at least less dislike for them, and you notice that they're doing these things, show appreciation. That will go a long way in helping to rekindle feelings of love and connection, and also to feel more motivated to keep going, especially if it's something like the person is messed up and they're really discouraged about whether or not the relationship will keep going. If you can offer encouragement like, hey, I see you're trying and I appreciate that, hey, I see you're making sure to come home on time, or some, whatever it is that you guys have talked about needing, for things to work, then show appreciation for that. That'll really help.
Right. Go on a date. If you can, go on a date,
Mm-hmm.
um, and enjoy yourself, have a good time, and let your spouse know, like my wife said, that show signs of appreciation. Let them know how much you love them, how much you care. You know, do do certain duties around your house that your spouse would do,
Mm-hmm.
and do it for them. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Especially if you're in a situation of rebuilding and trying to rekindle from, a area of dislike
Mm-hmm.
for your spouse. So those are just those are common sense things. To be honest with you, as far as like you know
How to
rebuilding
rekindle,
and how
yeah.
to resolve your arguments and dislikes for your spouse.
Yeah.
So
And it's all going to be different. It's all based on everybody's relationship is different. So there's certain things that you do in your relationship that will work that might not work for the next person. So it's really going to
right,
have to take in, again, the self-reflection, the analysis of what will work, what has worked with our relationship, and what are some things that we can also implement and do.
right.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, and then like me and my wife are here to answer questions as well.
Yeah.
So
Offer support.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're here to help tackle any difficulties you all are maybe having with your relationships.
Mhm.
So often at times, what a lot of married couples often need is another married couple to speak with.
The support, yeah, there's nobody that garners support like another couple that's in it with and understands the importance of trying to stick it out and making it work. I guess some people, if they're not married in particular, they may tell you, oh, forget it, jump ship, you're better off without them. But when you are married, you really understand how it's not that simple, it's not that easy, and it does, by right of your vows, require you to stick it out at least way more than you would if you were just casually dating. So,
Right.
garnering a support system around you of people who will encourage that will definitely help you further stay committed and motivated to getting rid of any negative feelings you may have and kind of shift your point of view
Mm-hmm.
of things. Yeah, because
Yep.
even some people are like, other relationships can kind of give you a different point of view. Like sometimes even still, just if another couple has gone through things and they have recovered in a certain way and they did certain things, this is a great opportunity to offer that solution for somebody else. Like Blueprint Family Jewels is really about creating a platform for support, for helping relationships to sustain, not really to tear them down and pull us apart. Sharing the experiences that help us stay together, sharing the tools and techniques that are used to help keep relationships together. So definitely taking the time to find other supportive groups and groups like ours that will help you continue along your path in your relationship.
Yep.
Yeah, we are flying through these today. I guess it's because
Yep.
it's not too much. If you
Mm-hmm.
dislike your spouse, it's either one or two things that you can do.
Right. Yeah, and then another sign of appreciation is showing forgiveness.
Yeah.
Showing forgiveness, apologizing, saying thank you, and thank you for understanding, you know, the issues or whatever the case may be. And then
Mm-hmm.
also too, another sign of appreciation is buying gifts for your
Mm-hmm.
spouse, letting them know that you care for them, you understand them, and you're here for them.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you've done something, that is very, like infidelities and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hard one to try to come back from. You have
Mm-hmm.
to build that trust. You have to do everything that you can to rebuild that trust in your relationship,
Mm-hmm.
so that it doesn't end in divorce
Right.
or in a separation or breakup.
Mm-hmm.
And
And even for dating, I think too, it's really important for you to sit back and figure out, are these really make or break
mhm,
issues, or are they just something that maybe I'm not used to because I'm used to being single and I
right,
didn't know what it was like to be with a person? because when you're single, your relationship skills are a little rusty. It's a work to actually come together with a person and spend a life with them. That requires a lot of work and effort, attention, and awareness. So if you aren't used to doing that, you can kind of go into a relationship with the one-sided, selfish viewpoint, and that could really cause you to, I guess, be clouded in your perspective of what is something that you should like or dislike, or if, even the smallest little things you would dislike about a person, when it's really not even that big of a deal when it comes to marriage and
Right.
overall success of a marriage.
Right. Because you remember the whole idea about dating is making sure that you go you get into the relationship of dating with the intent on getting married.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be fully sold
Mm,
in on this person, and they hit on all the traits that you're looking for.
yeah.
Even if they do hit on all the traits that you're looking for, you're going to come into areas of conflict
Mm,
and that you have to resolve. So understanding how to resolve those conflicts from this information that we gave you all earlier is a great way to stay in your relationship, bring those uh, statistics down from divorce rates, and then ending in irreconcilable differences. So
yeah,
this
definitely.
focus on like we spoke about it earlier, focus on rebuilding. And when you after you've said your issues, remember to show appreciation also too for the understanding after you all have had your conflict, and moving towards resolving.
Yeah, and then get counseling, or again, a supportive group. But counseling is very good, especially if you're going through a situation where you may think that, am I trying to figure out what I want to do with this relationship? I think it's great, especially if you're still dating and you're not quite married, to take the time and go to counseling so that you can have an outside perspective and a supportive, ear, and hopefully a little supportive solutions giving to you so that you can decide whether or not this relationship is something you should stay in or something you should leave. Counseling is very, very supportive in times like that.
Right.
So,
Now you got to make sure too, marriage counselor, you have to be, you know, be weary, be curious of your counselor as well. Vet your counselors, because what you
mhm,
don't want is a single person giving you marriage advice.
mhm,
You don't want a single person giving you advice on dating. You want to make sure that the counselor that you do pick, I would say, try to get a male counselor if you possibly can, because
yeah,
men are more analytical, to be honest with you. When it comes to giving advice, we're more calculated when it comes to giving advice, and we love to stick on statistics and results, real
mhm,
results. So and that's just come from the calculations and the stats. So um we don't want to be drawn up in speaking more so a lot out of our feelings. We can express our feelings into understanding, but we want to eventually get out of the feelings part of it and then focus on the realistic situations of how we got here.
mhm,
The feelings are for us to try to understand how each other feel, but more importantly, we're trying to figure out what had happened with facts, and then what we can do to move forward and
mhm.
resolve.
Yep. Yep, that is true. That is true. Well, I think we have pretty much hit on everything. And like we said, this is a call-in show. So if you have any experiences that you had with your spouse that you had to get over, and how did you do it? Call in, let other people hear, other people learn by examples. That's what we always say. We all learn by examples. So just being able to call in and share your experiences is great. And also too, if you need some help, we're always here Monday through Friday, 8:30 p.m. So
Yeah. And if you have any questions, I mean, go ahead and hit up www.wifeconomics.com and submit a question, and we'll be more than glad to tackle that for you.
yeah.
We had a great question the other night, and we love the interaction from our audience. We really appreciate it. It really shows that you all are curious about relationships and staying in relationships and moving the culture forward through marriage.
Mhm.
And because we all need to think about, the future. If we have children, we want to make sure that our children can find mates, and wives and husbands, because my friends that I'm coming across that I have today, a lot of them are not married. They're they're struggling to find honest people to date in this world, unselfish people, people who um, are sold on the institution of marriage and want to be married, date with intent, those type of people. And that's what we're here for. We want to help guide you through that process. And if there's any issues that you all may have, by all means, please reach out. We're here to help.
Yeah.
So,
And this helps us too.
right,
It
most
was all
definitely.
about keeping relationships together and creating more relationships as well. So,
Right,
yep, that is the goal. Also, to comment, like, subscribe. Our comments are cool, so we like to read those. So, also, this is a great place to leave your advice or your input too. So, people read the comments and go ahead and drop your jewels down there too.
right. Yeah, most definitely. If you all have some advice as well, we want to hear it. So let's do a recap.
Yeah.
So, what to do if you dislike your spouse?
First thing is to decide whether the relationship is worth it. Marriage or single, it's going to be a tough decision, but married people weigh this decision way more heavily than you would if you were single,
Right.
for sure.
I would say if you're married, try to do everything that you possibly can to stick it out.
Mm-hmm.
Failure should not be an option in a marriage. But at the same token, if you're being abused in the relationship, by all
Yeah.
means, get your police reports. And you don't want to be married to an abuser. By all
Yeah.
means, we're not telling you to stick it out no matter
Right.
what.
Right.
Black and blue eyes, like, no, that's not healthy at all. We want to
Right.
make sure that everyone is safe.
Right. That's why getting counseling and garnering a support system around you when you're trying to figure out whether or not you should stay in this relationship or not is important, because other people will be able to offer their loving support to you and tell you whether or not this is maybe the best thing for you to do, or whether you should not do things, especially if you're in an unhealthy relationship with someone that you love. It can be really hard to recognize what's going on. And I certainly don't recommend you try to diagnose a mental disorder or maybe call somebody a narcissist or bipolar or, label people unless you have that, credential to be able to do so. But if you're not, really just being able to get support from somebody who could possibly point out whether or not this is a toxic situation that this person might not be able to change, and whether or not it's in your best interest to leave. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. And remember, don't, like my wife said, don't label or don't generalize
Yeah.
in those situations as well.
Yep. Oh, so gain awareness of a few important things. The first thing was to try to put into words what you dislike about that person
Right.
and why.
Right. Say those things, lay those all out to yourself, explain to yourself why you dislike your spouse, and the things that they're doing before you approach them about it. And remember to do it in a professional manner.
Mhm.
Even though we are, we consider our spouse in our relationships with our spouse as informal, we want to
Mhm.
be also to still have that high level of respect for them,
Mhm.
because what you're saying ultimately can change the outcome of your relationship, and
Mhm.
then show that respect to them, because they are human beings. They are, the parents of your children.
Mhm.
So remember that, you, like my wife had said, you wouldn't talk to your boss, and you may, but what's
Yeah.
going to happen if you
Right.
talk to your boss in an irrational manner.
Right.
So same thing for your spouse.
Show them that
Show
respect.
them that level of respect when you speak with them,
Mhm.
by all means. And then,
Especially if you want to make it work.
right, especially, yeah, exactly, if you're sold in on being with this person, you really want to make it work, to be honest with you.
And be nice about it. That person will receive things 10 times better. Just think, if you brought something and the person is just yelling at you and blaming you and insulting you and pointing all the fingers at you and not taking, any responsibility or accountability or even consideration on how they're coming off, that's a big issue. That's a
Right.
big, big issue. And
And
it probably won't work out.
right, and don't trigger people. Don't trigger
Yeah.
your spouse either by saying things that they don't like.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is avoid arguments,
Mhm.
dislikes in situations of of frustration can lead into arguments. Now, naturally, arguing is healthy. In relationships is going to happen, but what you don't want to do is say things that you regret and
Mhm.
that you cannot take back.
Yeah, make
So,
it worse.
right, no name
Yeah.
calling, calling out
Mhm.
your names. Just show high levels of respect. We're all
Yeah.
adults here. We know.
Yeah, you're already disliking them. You don't really want them to dislike you too, because then
Right,
it's just over with. Yeah. So, oh, the next thing, lead the conversation with telling them the exact things that you didn't like and what made that happen. And then end the conversation with your solutions of how you think you can move forward in the relationship, or at least try to come up with solutions together about how you could move forward in the
right.
relationship.
So negotiate and compromise.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the best thing that you can do in a relationship is negotiate into a situation where it's a win-win for both people, and that is a form of compromising. And that's something that, well, in an argument, you're reluctant to negotiate. Make sure you're doing it in a safe space. And what I mean is that level heads, sit
Mm-hmm.
down at the kitchen table, and maybe they have to be the next day, the following day,
Yeah.
hours later, after you get done, do things that to cool you down. Go for a
Mm-hmm.
run, jog, exercise, play PlayStation, play
Mm-hmm.
basketball, guys. Women, go sit down, watch a show, one of your favorite shows or something. Go exercise, go for a walk, you
Mm-hmm.
know, um, and go out, grocery shopping or something, then come back.
Yeah.
Cool down first, provide that safe space so that you all can have that conversation, negotiate into a compromise and resolve.
Mhm. And work towards the next step, which is rekindling.
Right.
You want to be able to do the things that we did in the beginning of the relationship that always work to get you and your spouse back on accord. So make sure that you're doing those things to help rekindle the relationship and get rid of any, animosity or hard feelings that you're harboring on to. The next thing is showing appreciation and gratitude all during the rekindling process. That's a big part of, I think, getting rid of the feelings of resentments and stuff. Is
Right.
just by seeing the progress and then being appreciative for it. Yeah.
Right. So after, right, like my wife said, after you all resolve, then you want to work and build up
Mm-hmm.
the good feelings. And those are coming from areas of praise and saying all your thank yous and helping out with your spouse, getting back to that
Mm-hmm.
cohesiveness that brought you all together,
Yeah.
going to date, start doing things back again together. And that'll help to relieve that dislike for each other and
Yeah.
and do things that you all enjoy again without
Mm-hmm.
all of the animosity
Mm-hmm.
still in the relationship.
Yeah.
All of this stuff takes time. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not boom 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 back to back. This may be hours later, a couple of days later, a day later, or what have you.
Yeah.
But just remember that to show appreciation for your spouse
Yeah. Put in that
after.
effort. Yeah.
Yep, put
Please
in the
put in that
effort.
effort. Please, please. Just know it's not going to be something that, oh, it's just going to work itself out. You have to put in that
Right.
effort to rekindle the relationship, to do the work, to see the progress so that you can feel appreciative for the progress that you have made.
Right. And if you're still feeling resentment, even after you've had that compromise and resolve,
Mm-hmm.
let your spouse know that, hey, I still need some more time, and I'm trying to get there with you, but just give me some more space, give me some more
Mm-hmm.
time. I'm
Yeah.
working on it. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, the honesty, like we talked about yesterday, honesty being a big part of a green light in a relationship that lets you know that all systems are go. We're
Right.
trying to work towards this relationship getting better, being better. So definitely make sure that you're being honest every step of the way, even if you don't think it's something your partner may want to hear. Just be honest, because it will help you not keep building up ill will feelings, because the last thing you want. Once you recognize that, hey, I'm feeling some type of way, you don't want to keep adding on to those feelings by just holding stuff in and not letting it go.
Right.
So yeah. The last part we talked about, of course, was considering counseling and other forms of support. We are here, our Wife Economics community that we have set up online. All the wives get full on support of how to keep your marriage together, and of supportive community of women who are reverent in our behavior and want to continue seeing marriages thrive and see them through difficult times, because it's not always peaches and cream. We understand the reality of things make it tough, but just having a support system of people that don't want to see you fail, people that have your best interests at heart, people who will help you to reconsider things in a positive light, not a negative light, not one that just focuses on the spouse and beating things down and making things worse, or even on yourself, beating yourself up, making things worse, but more so a positive light of how things can get better, pushing you towards hope and to the brighter side of things in your relationship.
Right, most definitely. And like I stated before, making vet your counselor. Like my wife said, we offer insight, and then also ways in which we can help you through guide you through your difficult time. By all means, we're not
Licensed
right,
therapist,
we're not
yeah.
licensed therapists, we're not doctors in the
Yeah.
area of relationships, but we are in a relationship, a healthy marriage, and we can give examples and help you to find ways that you can resolve your situations or your issues.
Yeah, because
And
tools work for us. These
right,
are things that we're doing because we are like you, wanting our marriage to succeed, will have our marriage succeed. So these are the tools that we have taken on that we want to impart onto you so that your marriage and your relationship succeed as
right.
well.
And then, like I said, vet your counselors.
Mhm.
Make sure that your counselor, they themselves are in relationships, healthy
Yeah.
relationships, because what you don't want is someone who's single telling you how to maintain your marriage and your relationship with your spouse.
Yeah.
You really don't want to do that. So
Yeah.
I even said also too, a male's opinion. Try to get a male counselor, because we're more analytical, and we stick to facts instead of feelings,
Mm-hmm.
and what had occurred, and where you need to be moving towards
Mm-hmm.
in your relationship.
Yep.
So if you can find that counselor, or either consider us and speak with us, and we are willing to help you to help resolve anything that you have going on.
Yeah.
So
Keep relationships on track.
right,
Yep. That's all that this is about.
right, because what we're trying to do is bust down that irreconcilable differences.
Yeah.
That number one reason why people get divorced. That's what we're trying to attack. The number one reason why people get divorced, and then also too, we're trying to stop the initiation of divorce, which is 80% done by women.
Mm-hmm.
So, by all means, women, if you all are on the brink of divorce, please call in, let us know. And maybe we can help you. We can talk about it. And if you want to know more about it, you can also go to my wife's wifeconomics.com website, and then take the courses. Try the course and see if it will help you out in your relationship, and give us some feedback, because
Yeah.
we really want to know and really want to help people out there. Relationships don't have to end in breakups and divorce. They
Yeah.
don't.
And marriages are really the big building block to healthy communities, healthy families, healthy nations. And it's super important that we can also attack that declining marriage rate that's going on. A
Right.
lot of people, I think in particular, marriage hasn't been shown in a beautiful light. And it really is one of the most beautiful tools that God have created to elevate not only the man and the woman, but everybody around a family when it comes together and moves and let God's work through it. So it's just really, really important that we can work to build more families, grow together, and create a support system. I think one of the biggest issues that 80% of wives initiate divorce is because there hasn't been a support system for wives. Where is this support system that lets women know how to be good wives, things that we could do, how we can empower ourselves in our relationships to keep things on track? So I really think it's a great opportunity within anything that we're doing with Blueprint Family Jewels or Wife Economics for us to all come together to really see how we can build more families. So
And
yeah, and keep
keep
families
families
together.
together.
Yeah. So great show.
Yep.
Run this back. What's
And
up, YouTube,
right,
Instagram?
right. Before we leave, anybody have any questions?
Yeah, hit us up in the chats, the comments. We go live Monday through Fridays. Restream is on or off camera access, so you don't have to be on camera if you don't necessarily want to. Instagram, you will have to be on camera. Request to join live. What's up, Instagram people? But if there isn't anything else, we will be back up here
Tomorrow night.
tomorrow. Today's Thursday, right?
Yep.
Tomorrow's Marriage
Marriage
Fit
Fit Friday.
Friday. Oh yeah, we're gonna have something good for tomorrow. So yeah,
Yep.
that's it.
All right, everybody. Peace. Good
Peace.
night.